Well, hello there, and welcome to this Elcrig hosted webinar with Monoch, and it's called Dutch Success with Talking Traffic to Inspire Intelligent UK Infrastructure. Now, today, for the next hour, we're going to find out about the Netherlands success story that is Talking Traffic. It's an innovative initiative realizing the exchange of real-time data between road users and intelligent traffic infrastructure to improve traffic flow and road safety. So over the next hour, we'll find out more from Monoch CEO Menno Malta and Vincent Harbers from the Dutch Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management as they share implementation insights and success metrics. We'll also gain valuable perspectives from René Spahn of Helmond City on real use case scenarios using roadside equipment such as traffic signals in their community. And we'll also hear about what it could mean for the UK with the Department for Transport's ITS policy lead, Darren Capes, who we'll hear from in a moment. But before we start, I'd like to remind you that this is very much a two-way process. So we want to hear from you too. So please do put your questions in the Q&A box, which is at the top of my screen anyway on Teams, but you should be able to find it. Click on that and we'll answer as many questions as we can from you later on in the hour. So we'll come to your questions later, but without further ado, let's set the scene for the hour by welcoming ITS policy lead at the DFT, Darren Capes. Darren, if you could join us, then can you set the scene as to your impression of Talking Traffic and what you think it could mean for authorities across the country, please?
Yes, thank you, Paul. Firstly, the time-honoured way of starting a Teams meeting. Can you all hear me? You can. Fantastic. Great stuff. Thank you, Paul. And it's great to see so many people here. I've just been watching the people come into the group. It's great to see so many people on this webinar. I think it's a really, really important subject. So I think most of you know me, but for those that don't, I'm the ITS policy lead, the Intelligent Transport Systems policy lead at the Department for Transport. And I'm really interested in how we get local authorities to adopt new technology to provide enhanced services for travellers, to provide services better, more cheaply, more efficiently, to think about how a new technology can play a role in how we manage traffic in our cities and in our rural areas as well, and how we make the best of the technology that is available from across the world to make sure that we offer the best services in the UK. And I hope many of you, certainly in local authorities and in industry as well, are thinking about the funding that's coming up, the Intelligent Traffic Management Fund, the ITMF. And I hope you're now starting to think about putting bids together to bid for that, because that funding is to do exactly this. It's to allow us to start to build some beacons around England that show what next generation of traffic management could look like, and to give people a feeling for what could be delivered, and to set up some examples that people can go and look at and interact with, and that we can broadcast more widely of what new technology could be like. Now, I don't think it's any great surprise to anyone that one of the places that we look with a certain amount of envy when it comes to traffic management is the Netherlands, and the Netherlands have been doing some great things for a number of years in terms of the next generation traffic management, not just at a practical level, but also in terms of the way they've been thinking about architectures, about how technology should fit together, about the roles of central and local government in delivering cooperative technology systems that bring infrastructure and vehicles together on the national strategic road network and the networks in their various towns and cities as well. And we know they've done some great thinking about where the private sector and the public sector fit in this. And I've seen some great illustrations of how they do that. And I think there's a huge amount we can learn from the Netherlands. And I was looking to go over to Eindhoven and Helmond earlier this year, and Vincent presented for me. So great to see you again, Vincent. We had a presentation from the city of Helmond as well, which is great because Helmond isn't a big city. It's very similar to many places in the UK in terms of its size, in terms of the way it works as an urban area. So there's a huge amount of transfer between the great things that the Dutch are doing and what we need to learn in the UK. So I think this event today is incredibly important. Now, obviously, I need to hold my hand up and say, I have a very open role in this. I'm not in any way as a government officer saying that Monarch is the only solution, and the way the Dutch do it is the only solution. That's for individual local authorities and suppliers to determine. But what I am saying is the principles they've adopted and the way they've approached the idea of bringing new technology into traffic management, delivering new services, thinking about connectivity into vehicles, thinking about supporting active travel, cycling and walking as part of the whole technology package. The way they've done it is certainly something worth looking at, and certainly something worth examining. And I would be very surprised if one or more of the successful ITMF funded projects that we do fund in the autumn doesn't have some kind of a flavour of what's happening in the Netherlands to them, because I think that would be, it'd be very strange if we didn't closely look at the way that's going. So I think really I just want to end by saying thank you to Monarch for hosting this. Thank you for our friends from Holland for sparing the time to come and talk to us today and tell us about the great things they're doing. And thank you for so many of you for joining this. And I hope you find this useful. And looking through the names, I see there are some people there from UK cities that I really would like to see involved in this. So let's have a great session. Let's pick up this conversation next month at the TTF conference in Leicestershire. I hope to see many of you there as well. And let's hope this leads to some great proposals in terms of things we can fund going forward in this area. So back to you, Paul.
Thanks very much, Darren. And it's fabulous to actually see that we're hosting a webinar that really matters, because we're talking about stuff that is here and now. It's not just theoretical in the future. This is stuff that's being looked at right now here in the UK with the ITMF funding as part of the Department for Transport's plan for drivers. So thank you to Darren for setting the scene. Let's now hear from Vincent Harbers, who is the manager at the Dutch Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management, who's going to explain how talking traffic is a cornerstone of smart and sustainable transport. So, Vincent, you were nodding along there to what Darren had to say, and as Darren said, you've presented to him. For the next few minutes, sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Paul. I'll be glad to share some experiences regarding the Talking Traffic project with you all. Let me share the screen with you in order to show the slides. If I'm correct, you can see them by now in presenter mode, hopefully. For those of you who are not familiar with Talking Traffic, it's good to get the essence of it, which actually is all about to bring data about the environment of a vehicle to the vehicle and about the vehicle to be brought to the environment. And we use long-range wireless communication, cellular communication, if you wish, 4G, 5G to do so. Why 4G, 5G? Because as the Dutch Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management, we're mainly interested, of course, in the effect of the whole project, the effect, the outcome. And as more road users are participating in Talking Traffic, the more effect, the more outcome we can expect. And the easier it is for any company to join or for any government to join, the more there is to get and to benefit from for each individual road user. So we are from the beginning on aiming at getting a low-cost possibility to join as possible, to make it as easy as possible for anybody to join, not needing any specific devices or any additional cost on top of what they've already got available in their pockets or in their bag. So hence the choice for long-range wireless communication. And if you know that we started with 39 use cases in 2017 when the whole Talking Traffic development started, none of these 39 use cases we started with has been hampered in any way by our choice for 4G, 5G long-range communication. All of the use cases were perfectly realizable using this wireless communication. And up till now, we haven't had one single moment where we couldn't deliver a use case according to the standards we deemed necessary and the low latency that was required for the specific use case. So up till now, we're fine with long range. Talking about use cases, I'm not going to tell you about all 39 of them, but it may be good to dive a little into the most known use cases. We grouped them in 6 groups, the main group being related to intelligent traffic lights. Most of all, the priority provisioning, especially to emergency vehicles, is a very important one. Currently, we have connected to the Talking Traffic data chain virtually all of the ambulances in the Netherlands, virtually not yet all, but we're almost there. We hope to get a majority of the fire trucks connected in this year. Currently, there are some, well, what is it, about 20% of the fire trucks connected. Hopefully that will be over 80% by the end of this year. Police cars is a harder one because it's a matter of money, time, and priorities currently within police forces in the Netherlands. Public transport, also a group of road users that can be given priority. For instance, when they are delayed and behind schedule, or when the bus is absolutely full and you would rather not have it stopped before a traffic light in order to make the travel as comfortable as possible for the passengers of the bus. Heavy vehicles, trucks, very important one for us as well in order to reduce the amount of fuel used by these trucks. As I'm told that every time a truck has to stop and start again, it costs far more than a liter of diesel fuel in order to make that happen. And that's, if you can avoid it, definitely worthwhile. So priority provisioning for us is a very important one and a very well-known one. Providing the data or the current light image in car, in vehicle, may not be as known as the priority provisioning, but is a very appreciated one by several road users. All of them that have the correct facilities aboard, be it an app on the smartphone, or be it a in-vehicle device specifically tuned towards that vehicle. No matter what, you can get the current light image. And that could help a great deal because even before you can see the traffic light itself, you can already know that it will be red when you are there, so no need to rush. And the other way around as well, if the light's green and it will be green for the next 30 seconds, there's no need to rush because you will be able to get the green light. So it does definitely help people to plan their route towards the traffic light. And other way around, if you're parked or waiting for the traffic light behind this large truck, quite often you can't even see the traffic light. It does help that you can see the current light image in your vehicle. In order to avoid drag racing when the light turns green, we do not communicate anymore the actual time to green from 5 seconds on until the light will be green. And that does help. Another one related to traffic lights is the network optimization for several target groups, for several groups of road users, in order to minimize their need to stop, and for emergency vehicles, of course, to reduce the travel time to the location where they're heading at. What may be less known, but also is important part of Talking Traffic and important in order to be attractive for all kinds of road users and thus for all kinds of service providers to provide a whole range of services, is the information provisioning on obligations and prohibitions. Think of traffic signs and maximum speeds. Quite appreciated by most road users, no matter when and where they're driving, on what road they're driving, depending on the vehicle they're driving with, they will always communicate the current maximum speed allowed. That does help a great deal. Warnings and advice, less binary in their characteristic of the information, but definitely helpful. Think of a warning for a vehicle that's broken down and standing still on the hard shoulder, or roadworks ahead, or a bridge which is open once you will be there. Things that can be contributing in a positive way to traffic safety, comfort of the road users and those working along the roads. Parking information is the group of data or information provisioning, which may seem a bit odd, but to us is very important given the fact that it seems that 20% of the vehicles driving in town is traffic looking for a decent parking place suited for their vehicle, suited for their wallet. And providing the parking information that fits to their needs is definitely helping to reduce the amount of traffic and the kilometers driven, so the emissions emitted in urban areas, which is an important factor for us when it comes to outcome. So that is a specific set of use cases, but it's also good to realize that talking traffic is more than just traffic lights and information provisioning. It's also about interacting with bollards and barriers in order to open them once you are authorized to pass. Think of the emergency vehicles, of course, but it could also be that a barrier closing down a piece of road to a apartment parking garage, for instance, that can be connected to the talking traffic data chain using the very same smartphone and the very same in-vehicle device as you as a bus driver or a truck driver will have, can also enable you to control and open a bollard or a barrier. So increasing the amount of situations where you can actually use the same facilities you've already got. Tire pressure management, an important one for us, given the fact that quite a lot of traffic-related issues, delays, is related to trucks, and a large fraction of that is related to tire issues with these trucks. Tire pressure measurement enables the truck driver to get onboard information on the tire pressure of each of the wheels on his vehicle and the trailer. Once he's driven over this the piece of a tarmac, you will be getting the information aboard of the vehicle within a couple of 100 meters after having passed that pressure measurement tool. So helpful in order to warn a truck driver for the fact that he's driving with too low pressure in his tires, and which tire actually it is. Bicyclist detection. It will not be surprising to you to hear that in the Netherlands we do appreciate the attention for bicyclists when it comes down to their safe and comfortable passing intersections, preferably with green light, especially when the weather is bad. Bicyclist detection aims to provide for that. Think of radar detection, intelligent cameras that detect the arrival of a bicyclist, and the sort of bicyclist. Is the very fast driving one, or is it the cargo bike kind of thing? That does help in order to try to provide them in time with the green light, especially if the situations weather-wise are not very kind to bicyclists. We have these specific facilities on some intersections because we still are facing the problem actually that on the one hand we are not very much in favor. It's prohibited actually to use a smartphone on a bicycle when bicycling. But on the other hand, to communicate with the traffic light, you need a smartphone or a similar device. That is, technically there's a possibility, but we do not want to encourage bicyclists to start using the smartphone on their bicycle when using it in town. So we do aim to either get a connection between a smartphone and a simple tool, a halo, that can be connected to the steer of the wheel. The steering, the steer of a bicycle, and that can provide them with information and can help them to indicate which route they plan to drive. So which light needs to be green for them in order to pass the intersection as soon as possible. If we succeed in getting such a device available, then our problem is a lot easier, is hopefully even solved. Bicycle detection till that moment has arrived is a way to at least assist bicyclists at intersections. This is how the value chain, the data chain looks like. On the right hand side, you see all the different kinds of road participants, the different kind of vehicles. Between them and the green arrows on the left side of them are a range of information services. Think of LocationNet, ANWB, Waze, the TomTom devices. You can think of Flitsmeister devices. There's a range of them. Each of them is connected with at least one cloud service provider. Cloud service providers are those companies that are matching specific sets of requirements and are periodically checked, audited on respect on the GDPR regulations, on security issues, protecting the data as required. So these are a set of companies that can be considered as trusted third parties, all communicating through their connection with UDAP, Urban Data Access Platform, to a set of traffic lights, intelligent traffic lights, the bulletin barriers, the tire pressure measurement tools, the intelligent objects we've got along the road. Each of them is connected with UDAP, enabling a communication between a vehicle and this intelligent object using the CSP and UDAP in order to route the information to the correct intelligent object and the other way around. Very low latency from the vehicle to the intelligent object and back again is less than a second travel time. So communicating the actual light image is a very impressive one if you realize that once you see the change of color of the traffic light and you look at your screen of the smartphone or your in-car device, you'll see that the color has changed accordingly. You cannot even blink with your eyes as you see how quickly this actually is happening. So this low latency data communication enables us to serve a range of use cases that require information exchange between intelligent objects and individual road users. What is important to know is, which is indicated in the next picture, the left-hand side with the blue line on the base of the graphic is public, is owned by or exploited by or in the name of road authorities, public authorities anyway. The right-hand side between UDAP and the cloud service provider starts the private area. There's commercial relations in place, there is trust in place, there is choice in place for each individual connected to the value chain. You can choose whatever service provider and information provider you want to have. The data which could be considered privacy infringing or potentially privacy infringing is limited to that private side of the value chain. There's virtually a Chinese wall between the public and the private part of the value chain. The public part does not want or accept any data which can be considered to be potentially privacy infringing. We continue monitoring on that. The data format of the messages exchanged between UDAP and the cloud service providers, look for that. We have no idea which person is driving which vehicle or which ambulance is actually crossing which intersection. We only know that we're faced with a ambulance that is asking for priority to be provided on a specific intersection, and that's sufficient for us. Due to this architecture, we can deliver a whole range of use cases that could potentially be privacy infringing, but due to this trusted third party that the cloud service providers in everyday practice are, the role they fulfill in this respect, we can offer more than only the interaction with traffic lights. Some name dropping if you want to see the participants in the current scheme. You see a range of cloud service providers. You see a range of information service providers. Some of them already OEMs that are connected in the data chain, mainly because they are very interested in providing the information on the arrival of an emergency vehicle, the EVA messages, emergency vehicle approaching. Due to the fact that they get additional points in the NCAP rating, they do communicate the approach of an emergency vehicle to each individual users of their vehicles and provide a valuable service in that respect. On the left-hand side, you see a range of providers of intelligent objects. You also see in the green fields on the left, VNotes and Cycle Data, the companies providing these bicycle detection systems. On the bottom side of the graph, you see in orange a range of data sets that can be provided through UDAP to the individual cloud service providers, and from there on to the individual information services and road users. This architecture is only possible, with this architecture, what I showed you here, a limited footprint from the ministry in the value chain, limited to UDAP. That's the only position we've got in the value chain. We don't own intelligent infrastructure. We don't own sensors, and cloud service providers are private companies. UDAP is our only position in the value chain, and we can manage the whole value chain because of the fact that we have this quality assurance designed within the value chain. We can check on the using of ETSI standards by each individual participant in the chain. UDAP does so. We can check on the use of Dutch profiles. UDAP does so. Requirements which are in place in order to connect with UDAP, we check on them. There is an international testbed, you see it on the 8th bullet on the list, an international testbed together with Flanders for mobile data, where each individual participant in the value chain can check its own offering, be it software, be it hardware, be it a combination of these. You can check the functionality of your contribution in the value chain, which each other participant in the value chain, using an internet-based testbed, and always having the ground truth, all recent versions of the certified project available in order to test. We use that as well in order to annually certify all these components and all these offerings that are compliant to the regulations set by either Flanders or the Netherlands or mutually. We have periodic audits. We do data protection impact analysis in order to make sure that privacy is protected as each individual user does require. And especially when OEMs come into place, we need to be certain that the quality of the data and the protection of the privacy of the drivers is very well to be trusted. We cannot protect ourselves against big headlines in the papers stating that the ministry is acting like a big brother and watching all road users when they are passing intersections. That's not the truth, and we want, as you will understand, at all times, virtually at all costs, avoid that situation. That would be the end of the talking traffic value chain, and that's of course not what we aim for. We're only at the beginning. We started in 2017. The contracts, innovation contracts, we had with 15 market parties. They all ended 2021, and still the value chain is in place. We're not financing it anymore. It's even growing. The number of participating companies is growing. The number of users that has one or more of the talking traffic services is every day growing. And currently, I think it's safe to say that virtually 50% of the road users has one or more of the services aboard when driving on any of the Dutch roads, which is, I think, a very fine achievement. And we do see the effects. We do get, for instance, from the drivers of ambulances, we do get feedback that they see that people are already warned for their approach. People are less nervous, and it's safer to pass these vehicles. So
fantastic, Vincent.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to cut you off because we're running short of time, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Okay,
but I will say that I think that what you've been saying about how this whole concept has grown will be music to Darren Capes's ears over on this side of the North Sea at the Department for Transport here in the UK, by the fact as how this fantastic solution has been embraced. We'll come back to you for the Q&A in a few minutes' time. Thank you to Vincent Harbers, manager at the Dutch Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management. And I can remind you that you can ask a question by clicking on the chat button on Teams, and we'll come to the question shortly. But we've got two more speakers for 9 or 10 minutes each. Let's first hear from René Spaan, EU Smart Mobility Project Leader at Helmond City, to talk about the CITS deployment in Helmond. So for the next 9 or 10 minutes, René, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul. Thank you very much also for the invitation to be here. Hopefully also everyone can hear me loud and clear. My name is René Spaan. I work for the city of Helmond as a project leader of smart mobility. I'm presenting you the slides in the form of C-Roads. We're also part of the C-Roads network, which is a very interesting network also to see more use cases that already were mentioned before. A little bit about Helmond. We are located in the southeast of the Netherlands. You're more than welcome to visit us if you're close. We are part of the Brainport region, the region that also includes the city of Eindhoven and some high-tech companies such as NXP and ASML. We are a smaller city in our opinion. We just have 95,000 inhabitants, which is almost 90% of the Netherlands has fewer than 100,000 citizens. We have 55 square kilometers, and we have a huge mobility living lab, which I also will talk a little bit more later on in the presentation. We have 4 train stations and 67 traffic light controllers. More than 90% is CITS connected and also connected to UDAP, which is quite high amount of traffic light controllers. This is also what our citizens are every day telling us, why we do have so many traffic lights, but I think you also will have that in your cities. Still, we also looking for a way how to improve that system because back in the days when we didn't have the traffic lights equipped with CITS, we were even having a more worse traffic flow in our city than we do have right now at this moment. We have quite an extensive history on CITS. We go way back to 2009, where we were starting with the first one of the first Horizon Europe projects, Freilot, where we also were testing to reduce fuel consumption for trucks, so they don't need to stop for red every intersection that we have in the Netherlands. And for us was also a very huge eye opener, and this is one of the projects that also initiated the talking traffic chain back in the day. So we're also very happy that we were as a city part of that, and you can see that we have more than 15 years experience in Europe. We do have since 2017 in the C-Mobile project also our fire trucks with short range already connected with our system to give them green light when it's necessary, the green light priority. As a city, we do also have a vision. I'll do it quite short. Well, our vision is to improve the quality of life of our citizens. That's also the main goal for us, but also to create a thriving ecosystem, because we also are home to the automotive campus, the campus with a lot of international companies and organizations such as TNO and Siemens TAS. That's also have their test centers, but it also for us is very important also to attract new businesses, talent, and investments in our region. We also home to MARC, which will be launched next year, which is a mobility and research quarter, also located at the automotive campus. As I mentioned before, citizens are for us very important. That's why we also say like the CITS is also for us, and like you can see in the title, focus on citizens, also very inclusive. Everyone should enjoy our traffic light system, how crazy that sounds, but everyone should be able to use it in their way. Also on the top right, you also can see the image of the city of Eindhoven on the left and the city of Helmond on the right, where you also can see our focus on to be connected with our traffic light systems and the way that Eindhoven is doing it, for example. For us, it's very important to also highlight that we are partnering very much with Eindhoven to have our huge mobility living lab. So also if you would like to test out something, or you would like to see how it goes, you're more than welcome to see it in person. About traffic management, for us it's very important also to focus at the policy at traffic lights, because we have, as I said before, many traffic light controllers, many intersections. And every 4 years we have a new secretary of mobility, as to say, here in our city, and every 4 years then there's another color. Sometimes they would like to have more priority for bicycles. Sometimes they would like to have more priority for cars. Sometimes even for trucks, so they can have a continuous flow. So it is also for us the basic to have a very good policy at the traffic lights. Who we going to give priority and who we going to put higher in the ranking to make sure that, for example, the pedestrians can cross at some intersections before the cars or the bikes. We also noticed that at this moment we receive also a lot of CAN messages sent by Volkswagen cars, and these messages also helps us to improve our traffic flow in our city. We also have several cameras installed to also detect bicycles, and those bicycles are being detected by camera, and this camera is also sending messages to our traffic light installation, so we also can detect them much more ahead, so we don't need to invest in those losses that you put in the floor. So that also saved us money in that sense. The priority emergency services was also mentioned before by Vincent, and for us is also very important because the fire trucks that I mentioned are connected with short range. All our CITS traffic light installations actually are hybrid installed, so we can do short range and long range. But also this helped us also to not invest in a new fire truck station, because we without this system we should have invested quite some money in a new fire truck installation, because we have a response time of 15 minutes in the Netherlands, but thanks to the implementation of our CITS systems, we can still reach that 15 minutes, because by now the fire trucks since 2017 they have the green light, and they can be on time if there's any emergency. We also are very well involved in several tests around GLOSA, the green light optimized speed advice. We do this also for several years. We do this, for example, with Swarco in 2022, but it was also very difficult to do it with vehicle activated traffic lights. So for us, this is also quite challenging. As I mentioned before, everyone should enjoy the CITS installation, also visually impaired people. So we also did some tests on the phone. We call it the digital ticker in the post. So as soon as a visually impaired person opened their phone, started the app, they can know when they will have green instead of the traffic light needs to give an annoying sound. We also quite heavily invested in ISA, in the intelligent speed adaptation as the city of Helmond. We did several tests last years to see how ISA ready we are. We know that the new vehicles rollout will be equipped with ISA to make sure that people will not drive too fast unerringly, which is for us as a city very important to respond to all those complaints that we receive of citizens that say like, hey, my neighbor is speeding too fast in my street. You should create speed bumps in my street. Well, ISA is for us a kind of enforcement tool to make sure that people will not drive unerringly too fast. But we also saw quite fast that our digital environment is not accurate enough to make sure that people would love to use ISA in that sense. And quite often they just receive wrong speed advice. So
Rene, Paul here. Sorry to interrupt. Just to say, we're running slightly over time. So if you could just rattle through in your last 4 slides in just a couple of minutes, that would be great.
Yes,
thank you.
I will do so. Yes, great. Yes, I will skip this one. This is perhaps good to share how we do it with enthusiasm, with political courage. We do it with quite some time. We don't do it one day to another day. We love to share knowledge. So if you would like to know more about our approach, please knock at our door, and we facilitate wherever we can. Also, we see challenges. Not everything goes perfect. We cannot control behavior, as you see on the right picture. Also on the left picture, when we have a lot of rain and some highways are getting shut down, we cannot control it either. But we need to trust each other and that it will be fixed very well. The next challenges and steps for us is CITS definitely enabler for a safe and livable city, with more attention for pedestrians, bikes, and CCAM. We still need to solve several challenges for security and trust. And the time for CITS is now, and I think everyone should be part of the normal system. It's not future talk anymore. It's happening right now, and we definitely see all the benefits from it every day. And also, we will not sit back, and we will march on in our world of CITS. So thank you very much, and please love to answer some questions if you do have some. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Rene. That was fascinating and great to see how it's working on the ground. And also thank you for the invitation for everyone on this webinar. Darren mentioned he's been to see you. It's great that your door is always open. So thank you. Last but by no means least, for the next few minutes before we have some questions, let's join Menno Malta to tell us more about the technology behind Talking Traffic. He is the CEO of Monoch.
Thank you, Paul. It's a pleasure to be here. So, Monoch is the company that provides the UDAP services to the Dutch authorities. And I will share a bit about sort of the mechanics behind Talking Traffic, the technology that we use. And maybe to start, to give you an idea about the connections that we have today. So around 25% of all the traffic lights in the Netherlands are connected. All the ambulance, virtually all the ambulances are connected. Increasing number of fire trucks are connected, and approximately 25% of all the cars on the roads are connected into this ecosystem, sharing data and consuming data. That leads to the amount roughly of 1.3 billion messages that we exchange every day. Now, the question that we are working on, that we have solved as Monoch, is how do you deal with this in a reliable and in a very fast way. So here you see a number of logos and similar to the logos that the names that Vincent mentioned. So it's quite an impressive ecosystem, because Talking Traffic is something we cannot say enough. It's an ecosystem effort and success. And I think the reason why it is so successful is because the ambition was there from the start, as was set by the Dutch ministry, to go to large-scale deployment. So not so much as a pilot, but really for deployment. And we had a number of principles that really help everybody in the ecosystem to develop solutions that are sustainable and scalable. So we agreed to stick to international standards, and where they were not applicable, we just create them, use the existing cellular network so we can grow fast and deploy on large scale, and from the start manage security and privacy. So and most of all, an ecosystem. So these are the principles, 5 key principles that help us shape Talking Traffic. Similar to the slide, a bit similar to the slide that Vincent showed, here we have a simplified drawing showing the ecosystem, where we have on the left side the roadside infrastructure. Now this is here shown as a single box, but please mind that this is equipment from different vendors, different types of equipment, and owned by different municipalities, which makes it a bit more of a puzzle than you might think of when you see this drawing. Now on the right side, we have the user interfaces. So these are navigation apps, onboard units, fleet management systems. I will share a bit more about that later. And then we have the public CITS hub provided by Monoch, which is named UDAP, which takes care of all the data exchange, but also of the aggregation and of the quality control. Because imagine that you exchange this 1.3 billion messages every day, and we need to be sure that the quality is good. Otherwise, the parties in the ecosystem will not be able to use it, and the use cases will not have the effect that we want. So the quality control of this real-time data is key to get the ecosystem to large scale. And also the governance. So who's allowed to consume data, who's allowed to produce data, and why. So these are dynamic policies that we have in place, for instance, related to the being in place of privacy agreements, of product certifications. And as you imagine, these things can expire. So the enforcement of this governance is fully automated in this ecosystem. And of course, all the interfacing between the different roles are standardized and open non-proprietary interfaces. So where possibly we use, for instance, C-Roads interfaces, but also other standards that have been designed specifically for this exchange of these large volumes of data and to get to this low latency. Just a brief comment is that we also support federation. So the Netherlands, the choice has been to have one central CITS hub, but in the standards, federation is also supported, meaning that there can also be a network of CITS hubs in a country or on a continent where service providers can connect to just one hub, and from that hub sort of find out what data is available in which region, which quality, etc., and even consume that data through that one CITS hub. So I think this is an important thing when we look at other countries where we're active, such as Germany, the US, and I think also for the UK, where I expect there will be a network of CITS hubs in the future. On latency, I think Vincent already shared this, and for the sake of time, I will go quite quickly to this slide. Go to my last comment here. The latency has never been an issue in this deployment, even with the scale that we do it. And we had formal research conducted by TNO, which is the Dutch National Research Institute. And from that research, we learned that the average latency is around 150 milliseconds, which is faster than a human eye can see. And this allows us to really support a variety of low latency use cases using the cellular network. So really, latency not an issue, and it's never a discussion anymore when we talk about new use cases. Now, continuous quality control. What does it mean, for instance, that we check all the messages on conformity, we check it on anomalies, and we also combine different messages to monitor the quality of a use case, for instance, as priority. And to that, we attach all kinds of policies. So, for instance, if the message conformity is not appropriate, we can drop these messages, or we can flag an actor in the ecosystem. We can even ban them for a limited amount of time. So we have all these automated quality policies, and they are key to get the large players of the mobility ecosystem on board. And then I refer to basically the car OEMs, the tier ones, and the navigation companies. So I'll skip this one and just show you this slide. And let's see if we can get this video to run. Yes. Okay, this is a recording from one of our displays. I hope it's running smoothly. I'm not sure, but I want to show you the statistics on the left side, actually. So on the top graph, you see the volumes of signal phase and timing messages from intersections. And what you see here for this intersection, that it's sending out between 5,000 and 7,000 messages per hour on average. So quite a volume. But if you look at the second graph, I think that's even more meaningful. There you see the number of status messages that this intersection is receiving from the traffic. And what you see here in the rush hour, that this is easily 75,000 messages. So here you see the transition from detection loops and other physical equipment to data, which is a more powerful method of informing the control unit, but also a cheaper one in the end. And again, we will share this presentation, so everybody can also see the video later. Let me go to the next slide, which seems to be a bit of a challenge. There it is. So how do you get to the real-time road user data? It's really a combination of things, and we found that it works well to use what's already there. So there are apps that already have status data from road users. There are already fleets that have onboard units, especially logistical fleets, public transport, emergency vehicles. And where we need other types of detection, we can use radars, lidars, AI cameras, and all of these equipment is, of course, from many different parties that are active in the ecosystem, and many authorities already have these types of equipment. So by leveraging what's already there, I think that has brought us to this 25% of connected road users. Now, I think the power of talking traffic is the fact that the benefits are not just for one single group of stakeholders. There are benefits for road users, improved safety, traffic flow. There are huge benefits for authorities, I think cost efficiency in the end, but also the functionality to deploy policies in real time and in a much more dynamic way and stay in control. And then obvious benefits for traffic management centers, but also for the vendors of road equipment, roadside equipment, and for service providers. So more innovative services that are also bring benefits to these companies and to car OEMs also in particular. So there are some stats on the right side. Again, to keep some time for questions, I will go over them. We will be present at the next Transport Technology Forum meeting in April. So please, if you have more questions outside this webinar, feel free, come there and ask us questions. In the UK, we have Danny Woolard, who is representing us, and we have my colleague Gary Lynn, who's the first point of contact for the UK. And with that, I hand it over to you, Paul.
Thank you very much, Menno, and fascinating stuff. Loads of questions coming in as well, and it will be good to see you and catch up more at the TTF event in Leicestershire next month. And as you saw, Danny Woolard is now working with Monoch and representing, and he's an industry stalwart that has been around for many years and really knows his stuff and can help you out. So we're going to go very quickly through some Q&As. We've got about 7 minutes left, so I'd like basically 1 minute answers from you, please. And going through the questions that have come in, just to sort of pull them all together, there's a lot of questions about the business case. So Rene, how can we know that the benefits will outweigh the costs when it comes to implementing this solution?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, but I think it's also very difficult to put a price tag on potential benefits, such as improved traffic flow, reduced congestion, enhanced safety, environmental benefits. It's very difficult to put a price tag on that, but you don't need to invest all your traffic lights all at once. That will be my answer, but we did it also one by one in a time up of 15 years. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll bring Darren in actually, because Darren has a pretty unique position of being somebody who worked in local government for many years and is now working for the Department for Transport. So Darren, how would anyone go about building a business case? And then also how you expect winners of the ITMF funding to share best practice when it comes to being able to enable a rollout across the country?
Thanks, Paul. I think building a business case is tricky. I think it's very hard to work out the benefits of ITS. It's far harder than the benefits of building a new roundabout or a new length of cycle lane. And that's one of the reasons why ITMF exists. It's not just about the technical solutions, it's about building the business cases. So one of the things we expect, and one of the things we will work with the winners of ITMF to do, is to really examine what they've done, what it's cost, what benefits they expected, what benefits they've seen, how we monetize that. Because I think for most local authorities, and I think I was just looking at some of the comments there, it's tricky, and we know it's tricky, and we know it's very hard to do. And we've had our own problems with Treasury trying to get money for wide-scale ITS solutions in the past because of the difficulty in writing a solid business case. So that's very much part of this work is building that evidence base to allow us to be able to monetize the benefits of ITS solutions.
All right, thank you for that. We can talk more about that at the TTF conference next month. Menno, thank you for talking about latency, which I know is a question that everybody always asks when they come to any CITS solution. So I'm not going to go any more on that. But we were at a TTF event a couple of weeks ago, and there was a lot of talk about cybersecurity and the dangers of, well, basically being hacked. So I want to ask sort of two questions. First of all, how do we know that your solution is secure? And also, how do we know that when the next new piece of technology is invented next week, next month, next year, we're going to be able to use it, and that what we actually use is future-proofed?
Yes, so security has been, let's say, a concern from day one, or maybe not so much a concern, but a point of attention, a point of focus. So it's a big answer. It's not one thing that makes this secure. It's a complete set of actions, certifications, things that we have added in design, network setup, etc., etc. I think. So we have a white paper that describes all these measures sort of together. But what we can say is that we never had a security breach since the moment that we launched our software in any of our deployments. And mind you that this software is now live in 6 countries in Europe. So this is not just in the Netherlands. So we pay the utmost attention to that. And part of that is also that this is not something that we developed for one particular project. This is something that has been developed as a product from day one. And quite regularly, we release new versions with improvements. And these improvements are on functionality, user interface, but also on security, because that's sort of a non-stop race, you can say, from how can we make it more secure, and then looking at new threats, and then we have to make it more secure. So it's continuously ongoing.
Okay, and how about future proofing? Is that again the same, that you're continually releasing new versions?
Yes, exactly. So we guarantee that we keep the platform compliant with all the relevant standards. Also, of course, with legislation, but we also we are involved in many research projects in Europe, in different countries. We take the best out of these research projects, bring it into our standardized software in the end. So I think we can say that we're ahead of most developments by all the work that we do.
Excellent. And Vincent, I just want your advice to explain to road authorities, what sort of capabilities do you need as an authority for an implementation?
That's a good one. It's a set of requirements or a set of facilities that need to be fulfilled. It's well, you need to have some spending money. I mean, that cost us something to get the momentum in the value chain, to contract a couple of companies that did research and development and were allowed to exploit the results of it during 3 years. So starting money is definitely required, but moreover, and maybe even more important, is to have a vision on how to continue whatever you develop without your need to finance it. We started thinking, what do we need to have in place? What do we need to organize for in order to avoid the situation that the action stops when the money stops? If that's the result, then you haven't reached anything. So we strongly focused on attention for the benefits or the interests of the individual market companies, not focusing on a business to government business model, but what is in there for them, even without us, without our money. And we did tune our tendering procedure. We did tune our allocation of the activities in the value chain, all towards this situation. It's not only for companies or for governments, but also for companies. And maybe that is a difference to what quite often happens.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, as always, the clock has beaten us with a million more questions, but we'll be able to answer those questions on LinkedIn and when we all meet up at the TTF conference in Leicestershire next month. We'll be sharing a recording of this webinar so you can watch it again and you can share what you've learned with colleagues. So all is left for me now is to thank Menno, to thank Rene, Vincent and Darren for their time, and a big thank you to Elcrig for hosting. Thank you for watching, and we'll join you for another webinar very soon. Thank you.